Welcome to Confidence Rockstar Podcast, a place where you will find inspiration, motivation, and, let's say, kick in the bottom to take action and create the life of your dreams. I'm your host, Alex Grzybek, and I'll help you quiet that little voice inside your head saying, "You can't do this." So you have the courage to go for what you've always wanted on your terms. Every week, I'll bring you some confidence golden nuggets, present an awesome interview in order to empower you to step up your game. It's time to choose happy and shine. It's time to become a confidence rockstar. Let's dive deep. Hi everyone, it's Alex Grzybek, your host of Confidence Rockstar Podcast. And today in this new episode, I'm bringing you another amazing guest, a powerful woman, Hannah Cremona. Welcome, Hannah. Thank you so much for being here.
Alex, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get this conversation going.
Perfect. You know what? I'm so excited about this podcast because we will be talking today about breaking the burnout and broke battle and, how to overcome the challenges that come with that. And Hannah will definitely share her experience and her golden nuggets, how we can overcome those challenges. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I do believe that it's very powerful and very important right now, especially nowadays. So yes, I can't wait. So let me just quickly introduce Hannah to you before we dive deep. So Hannah Cremona is a business strategist and mindset mentor with over 15 years of experience of building businesses, growing teams, and empowering people. Yes. So she's coaching and consulting entrepreneurs and small business owners on business and marketing strategy, leadership, and mindset to build a long-term sustainable and profitable businesses. She also conducts trainings and workshops for middle to senior level executives on communication, selling, marketing, and leadership skills. So she's qualified in marketing, digital marketing, and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So she's definitely a powerhouse of knowledge, experience, and full of personal stories as well that she will share with us. Yes. So Hannah, tell us, I would like to kind of find out, from you, because you are working with small businesses, you are working with senior executives. So when it comes to burnout and this broke battle, as you said, did you experience something like that in your life?
Definitely. So in what I call my previous life, my previous career, where I was predominantly responsible for business development and marketing, from a very young age, from my early 20s, I believe I was 20, when I started building my own teams, traveling on work. I'm representing international brands here in Malta, where I was based. Well, I say was because I travel a lot these days. I have two bases right now. I was very passionate about my work. I consider myself to be a very passionate, committed, dedicated person. And when I do something, I want to see through, right? So there's a lot of emotion that goes in there. And I think for those of you listening, if you have ever considered yourself to be maybe a workaholic, or you associate yourself with the traits of one to some extent, you probably recognize these moments of feeling completely depleted. Even though you're passionate about your work, you're dedicated, you're committed, and on the flip side of that, there's this feeling of unfulfillment. There's a feeling of dissatisfaction. There's a feeling of the stress. Maybe feeling not appreciated. Maybe feeling undervalued. Right. So I was experiencing all of this. And please note, at the time, this was my family business as well that I was working with. I think that tends to be somewhat worse because there's so much emotion behind that, right? There's so much passion behind the work. So I think oftentimes it's people like us who are so passionate and emotional and sensitive that get the worst get the worst part of what burnout can look like. And for me, that's what it was. It was just going deep down, dark into depression, feeling physically fatigued for days on end. There were times where I couldn't get up, couldn't get off the couch, couldn't get out of bed to actually go to work, even though I was so passionate and committed. So there was one point I remember very clearly, actually, December, Christmas 2014, where I felt I was in the lowest of the lows. And that was for me the realization of like, damn, this is happening way too often. That was for me like, this is not cool, this is not normal, this is something that needs to change. So yeah, that's a little bit of my first realization that I was always living on the edge of burnout.
This is, I'm so sorry like to hear that, this story, but this is like interesting perspective what you said, because you said that you've experienced massive burnout and like, depression. At the same time, you were passionate about, what you are doing, because, traditional kind of way of thinking is like, the burnout is, I hate my job, I don't like what I'm doing, etc. So can you just explore a little bit that, because this is, something that, most people don't connect burnout with.
Yeah. So for me, that's quite interesting. And I think that's coming from a place that I've been healing on my own personal journey, is this giving without fully receiving. And so what happens there, and this is no fault of others, this is also the way I think this was my way of survival for many years, growing up as a teenager, going into the workforce. This was my way of proving myself. And so there we go, point number one, totally out of alignment. I was doing things to prove myself, and so getting disappointed and not being rewarded, not being seen, not being appreciated, not being valued. That made me feel not good enough. That made me feel not qualified enough. That made me feel like I'm not doing a good job. And so because of that passion and that emotion, then that just escalates, right? And then you're stuck in this circle. You're stuck in this cycle continuously, going back and forth from it. So I think that's where it is. It's a duality. It really is a duality. Because as much as you're passionate and high, there's the total opposite end.
So how did you break this through? Because you said that, you got to the point that it's like, oh my God, enough is enough. I cannot do this anymore. So I mean, what happened?
I quit. I took now, I'm not saying that this is for everybody, but I took a very drastic decision for my life and my career, and said enough is enough. And I decided, it took some time to come to this decision. Of course, it wasn't easy, especially because there's so much involved in terms of emotion. There was family involved. I worked very closely with my mother. And I took that decision to just hit the reset button on life. At that point, I realized I was predominantly walking my mother's footsteps. I was walking my mother's path, which, although was exciting and I loved it, and I was good at my work. That's another thing. I was actually really pretty good at what I was doing at such a young age, but it just felt so unfulfilling. And so this was for me a chance where I said, hey, I'm in my mid-20s. It's time for me to hit the reset button on life now, before it's too late, before I get into other commitments. So it just happened to be that time of my life where I was just coming out of a long-term relationship. I finished all my postgraduate whatever studies. I had bagged already like 8 years work experience. I had developed a lot of skills. And that's when I packed my bags and went to the Himalayas, to the most rural of places. Total opposite. And I had no plan. I had zero plan. Now, I'm not encouraging everyone to do that. Of course, I had very little commitments at the time, and I could do so. But that was what I needed. I needed to just rediscover myself. in a new way.
Absolutely. I love it. I love those kind of stories that, you take the like drastic decision. But you know what? Like, it's very important what you said that, you didn't have like, family. I mean, your family, yes. I mean, like children didn't have like those kind of commitments. You could do it at the same time. Of course, it was scary as hell. Plus, like, saying goodbye to the family business, like, oh my God, what they would think about me, what they would say, I'm a black sheep in the family, etc. So, all those kind of little voices, well, not that little probably, were, over there. But you know what? You really tuned inside and you said like, okay, I just have to rediscover myself. So okay, so you went to Himalayas, and how, like, what happened then? I mean, like, how did you have a chance to rediscover yourself there?
By the way, just as a side note, I really love how fluid this conversation is, because I really had no intention of sharing all of that. Well done. So I'll just share with you that this was not the end of it, actually. And this is a point that I want to bring forward here today, because oftentimes we'd find ourselves repeating certain patterns, and I just want to make sure for those of you listening to this podcast, that you don't feel disheartened that, oh, then there's something wrong with me because I'm falling back into the habit, or it's happening to me again, then there's something wrong with me. No, it's not. These things take time to break. If you formed a habit, it's become part of you. And in fact, that became part of me. Living on the edge of burnout became my survival mode, and that's all I knew. So breaking that was a really hard thing to do. For the next 2 years in the Himalayas in Nepal, I was volunteering, and even then I fell into burnout doing something so passionate on a cause that was very, very close, is still, I mean, I'm still involved with that organization, still very close to my heart. I was setting up micro social enterprises, starting women empowerment projects, and I'm still sort of involved to some extent, not on a day-to-day. Still, I found myself in these spaces. So these were clearly habits that I had developed. And it wasn't until later on, when I started my freelance business, that I realized, here we go again. I managed to like successfully book myself out with freelance work when I was coming back into the work scene. Money was running out eventually. We had to see to that side of things. I was freelancing for various small ethical and sustainable brands while starting a blog and a MLM and all of the things you can imagine for a digital nomad like myself, trying to make money online, doing all of the things, total hustle mode. It came to a point where I realized I was working 50, 60 hours a week to get paid peanuts at the end of the day. And here are some realizations that I had. Again, very passionate about the work, very excited to do it, but I was doing it in complete misalignment. I was doing it again. I was doing something to be able to do something else. Does that make sense? Like, I was doing all of these other things to validate myself to enter where I really want to be, which was in coaching and consultancy. And the reality was that, hey, I had all the skills, I had the experience in business, I had all of these things to start right away. And yet, what I believed was something else. I believed I was not good enough. I believed that I didn't have what it takes, that I had to do all of these other things to prove myself first. So coming out of that was really about coming into clarity. It was about claiming my power. It was claiming back my skills and my strengths from my previous life, I got it. Claiming that back, because that was powerful. That was a whole set of skills and strengths that I forgot that I had. And so it was coming back to that and coming back into alignment into my future self. And at that point, I decided, thanks to COVID, thank you, pandemic, which kicked me up the ass, basically, to really step into my zone of genius, to really claim that space, to really claim my powers. And yeah, align myself to that, align my actions to where it is that I want to be. I started to become the person versus doing the things to then become the person. Does that make sense?
Well, absolutely. I do. Like, most people, like, mostly we are programmed this way that we have to do certain things and have certain things in order to be able to be someone. But actually, it's the other way around. And, what you said is very, very, very powerful. And can you tell us, like, for people who are listening, like, women out there who may be feeling the way you are feeling, they may be feeling burnout. They may be feeling that they are in this kind of rabbit hole, or I don't know, like on this hamster wheel, like running crazy like headless chicken and not being rewarded, not being valued, and chasing the dream just to see that the ladder is placed against the wrong wall. I mean, what they can start with in order to actually get this clarity, what they really want, that realize that they are out of alignment, and how to actually claim this power back and this confidence back.
The first thing that came to my mind right now is just stop. Stop. It doesn't mean let go of everything and quit and pack your bags and travel to the other side of the world with no plan and hardly any savings. I'm not telling you to do that.
Well, it may be the solution for some too. Yes.
Maybe. I mean, for me, it was. It didn't need to be so drastic. But for me, it symbolized really just creating my own space to be able to think outside of the judgments and the opinions and the perceptions of others, right? So for me, it needed to be a little bit drastic, I guess. But just stop for a minute, give yourself that space, and really challenge the beliefs. When you ask yourself, like, where is it that I'm going? Like, where is it that I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to be? What am I doing? How am I acting? What is the best version of me doing and saying? And how is she serving? Or how is he serving? What is the business looking like? Whatever situation that you're in, if you like, give yourself that space to visualize the best version of yourself. And then look at the things that you're doing right now and see where, like, would the best version of yourself do the things that you're doing now? If it's no, then quit that stuff. Stop doing the things that your best version doesn't do anymore and start becoming that person today. I think that's giving yourself that moment, that space, would give you the clarity to start embodying the better version of yourself. And for me, a really good exercise is to write down all of your experiences, successes, no matter how small the win, no matter how small, how big, how important or not, it doesn't matter. Put all of that judgment and criticism aside, just list them down. And you would be surprised actually as to how bloody amazing you are, and all of the successes and all of the amazing things and skills and experiences that you have. Yeah.
I love that. Yes, I always like when I speak with my clients, so it's always like about the successes, accomplishment, just, write down the things that you are proud of, because we underestimate, like, what we have done in our lifetime, and actually like the gifts that we've got, and that they can be like very important for other people. So yeah, I love, like, what you shared about, like, connect with the person you would like to become and ask yourself, like, would that woman do what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, and I mean, to link this back to burnout, which is the topic of today, but the antidote of burnout is not doing less. Like, of course, self-care is important. Of course, balanced schedules are important. Of course, lifestyle, social, all of these things are highly important. But the antidote to burnout is not the do nothing, it's not the laid back, it's not rubbing crystals and singing kumbaya around the fire. Like, I mean, I'm coming from a very woo space as well, and I love all of that stuff. But for me, and the antidote to burnout is that inner clarity followed with aligned action. It's not no action, because I feel like there's this misconception, right? Like I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And the money part at the end of the day is a byproduct. the money part, the breaking the broke cycles. When you're in flow, let me rephrase that. They say that money comes to you in the path of least resistance, right? So if you are on a path of least resistance, if you're in flow, then you're being able to receive more as well.
Beautifully said. And I would like to touch on to this because, like, connecting, like, money with this alignment, because I absolutely like agree with you, and I experienced it like in my life as well. Having said that, very often when I speak to women, especially when they are thinking about, for example, starting their own business, and they have all of the same thoughts that, as you mentioned, yes, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, my skills, my coaching skills, my business skills, strategies, whatever, they are not enough, blah, 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 blah. And, deep inside, they feel that they are enough. I mean, they are ready. They know it all. They have strategies, resources, tools, whatever. Yet they are so freaking afraid to take that leap of faith and start, because a lot of, like, different things. So, on one hand, they would like to be aligned. They kind of have the clarity, but something stops them, and they still stay in the place where their future self, like amazing self, doesn't agree on. But how they can, like, overcome, especially like this fear, this anxiety, this worry, doubt at the beginning, in order to take this very first step and get into the flow. Does it make sense, my question?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about all of the times that I took that leap of faith where there was just the unknown at the end, right? It's like it's taking the jump and trusting that the wings will grow on the way down. It's really, that's it. Trust. It's not only trusting in yourself, but it's trusting in the process. It's believing in yourself enough, but also believing in the picture, in the bigger picture, in the mission, holding that belief. Even if maybe there's a little bit of self-doubt right now, even though there's a bit of fear right now, hold trust and confidence and belief in that bigger mission, in where you're going. I think we don't take that action also because there's all of that we just mentioned, but there's also an element of not feeling safe to do so. And I think this is where I invite you, if you're facing any of this, if you're facing the fears and the anxiety and it doesn't feel safe for you to take that action because of XYZ, challenge that XYZ. Okay, what are the beliefs that are coming out? Write them down and start challenging it. So when I want to do something that's really expanding my comfort zone, which is really pushing me out of my comfort, that's expanding me, I ask myself, how much do I believe this is possible? How much confidence do I have in myself or in the thing to happen? How much do I trust myself? Do I feel safe? And if it's a no, or if it's a very like low grade, so I'll mark it on a 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. And if it's a low grade, I would start challenging, okay, why don't I fully believe that this will happen? Why don't I fully believe that I can start that business? Why don't I fully have confidence that I can attract those type of clients? Why don't I trust that online marketing works? I don't know. It could be all of these things, right? So challenge all of these beliefs, and you will start seeing how some of them are a little bit not so true.
Totally. I agree 100% with you. It all comes down like to our beliefs. Yes. And like, what we believe to be true, because actually what we believe to be true, it's not the only truth. And when we accept it as the only truth, we are stuck. But when we start challenging them, actually it turns out, oh, hold on a minute. If I don't take it as the only truth, it can actually look a little bit different. And then we start like expanding. So absolutely. Oh, I love that. And I love like, what you shared about these beliefs and about the trust. And that's true. Like most of the times when we did the most scariest like things in our life, we had no idea what we were doing, and actually turned out to be the biggest blessing sometimes out of the most difficult situation.
Yes, and I shared with you my story of leaving, right? And I said it very lightly, and you rightly said that this must have been scary and hard, and it was. I cried the whole way from Malta, from the Mediterranean, all the way to Nepal on both flights. I cried my heart out. I was so scared. I was like, what the hell am I doing? But I had so much trust and faith that somehow this was the right decision, that I'm going to be shown the way. It was up to me to take that leap of faith. It was up to me to take that first step. In fact, this is what leadership is all about. You go first. You lead yourself first. You take that action.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love it. Yeah.
Bit off topic here, but it's all relevant.
No. It is like very much like, off topic. Alrighty. So like, coming back to like our like breaking like the burnout and broke cycle. So, in order not to be burnout and in order not to be broke in our businesses, like, what would you say, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3 biggest kind of golden nuggets, like 1, 2, 3 you can share with us to kind of break this cycle? I know that we kind of spoke about it like in a bigger context, but like just nailed it down to like 2 or 3.
For those of you who are running businesses, especially if you're coaches, consultants, you're service-based, you're using your own skills and strengths and experiences to coach, guide, mentor other people, I want to challenge you with a question. Are you operating from your zone of genius, or are you operating from something that you've learned from a book? I believe that when you really tap into your zone of genius versus your zone of competence, this is where the money is. This is where you find more alignment. This is where you find more joy and expansion. And this is where really the miracle happens. Plus, this is really where you get to stand out in the marketplace, right? So instead of trying to be like everyone else and sell things like everyone else, I invite you to stand up and stand out and be your own person. So really ask yourself, am I operating from my zone of genius, or am I operating from my zone of competence, the things that you're good at, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is to really look at your business, and my dog is going to bark in a moment, I think. To really look at your business and all of the different sections. So I would look at, okay, what is my content looking like? What is my brand appearance like? Is it really, am I doing it? How am I conducting my business? How am I conducting my marketing? Am I doing it in complete alignment, or am I doing things because someone said I have to do it that way? Because oftentimes, and the biggest challenge people have with creating a personal brand, with marketing, with selling, with doing all of the stuff in the online space specifically, is the challenge is that they're trying to do it like someone else. And so they start resenting it, they find it difficult, they find it hard. So really have an honest check-in with yourself. Am I being fully authentic? Am I leveraging my own skills and strengths? Are they being weaved into my business? Or is it sort of somebody else's? So what we're going to do here is start looking at where are the resistances and start coming into alignment.
Thank you. I love it. I love like, the zone of genius versus zone of competences. And then like, looking at the business from this kind of holistic point of view, I would say, yes, from this like strategy, but also like, the alignment point of view. And, on that note, I actually would like to ask you if you do have like any tip, like, for people who are struggling to find their zone of genius, or they are thinking that, they may understand the difference between the zone of genius and zone of competences, but they may be saying, oh, I don't know what my zone of genius is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how to tap into this?
So what I would do is very old school, get a piece of paper, put a line down the middle. One side zone of genius, one side zone of competence. In the zone of competence, you're gonna put down the tasks that you're quite good at, that you're really good at, right? That people come to you for, maybe you're good at it, you sell, whatever, your programs are on that. but it doesn't really make you stand out. It's not really like unique or different. Like there are many other people who do that. But in the zone of genius, I want you to think of all the times that people would really come to you for something. Like for me, people would really approach me or contact me for like to pick my brain, literally to pick my brain. People like to come to me, to sit with me, to brainstorm, to be a soundboard for them, because I really see them. I see their potential, I see where they're going. And so they really come to me to help them sort of, number one, realize that potential that I see in them, and also to put the pieces together. A lot of the time they have like all of these floating pieces and they don't know how to bring it together into something in terms of business, into a marketable offer, for example. So that is where my zone of genius is, coming into brainstorming sessions. So for me, then I would translate that into, okay, how am I delivering in my business? Is it through courses, or am I more effective in one-to-one coaching, in masterminding, in brainstorming sessions? And it was actually in the masterminds, the brainstorming sessions. So this is where you get to, rather than teaching the marketing, for example, I was actually doing things with people directly. So that was my exercise. So you can do something like that.
Perfect. Yes, I love like old school. Old school is always like the best. Yes, sometimes like we are trying to kind of think about like all the fancy strategies, but it's not really necessary. Yes, like when you really tune into yourself, that makes like a big difference. Yeah. All right, Hannah, thank you so much, for sharing like your wisdom and experience with us. So for those of you who are listening, I really encourage you to go to YouTube to see beautiful smile of Hannah and her energy. And you must know that she is like a new mama. She just gave birth like how long ago? A month?
A month, 5 weeks tomorrow.
Yes, 5 weeks ago. So she is a new mama, but look at her, how brilliant she looks, even though she's sleep deprived. And you know how it is with the newborn. So if she can inspire you so much, being a mother sleep deprived right now, there is nothing you cannot accomplish, you cannot do. So thank you so much, Hannah. All the contact details for Hannah, her social media links, how you can get in touch with her will be shared in the show notes of this episode. And also I would like to remind you that like Hannah and I, we are both speakers at upcoming Women Thrive Summit in March 2023. So Hannah, what your talk will be about? Can you tell us a little bit more?
My talk is titled Why Fit In When You Are Made to Stand Out. So it's actually a little bit of what we discussed here today. But yeah, it's all about my own journey struggling to fit in. And it's based on this duality of being raised as, oh, you're so unique and we all have unique abilities, like we all have our zone of genius, right? But then yet we're pressured and asked to go into certain pathways. And so I'm going to be sharing my journey through this, but also how this relates and this shows up in our business.
I love it. Okay, so guys, definitely grab your seat in the summit. They are like free tickets. They are like upgrades with like all the goodie bags, etc. So we highly invite you. So Hannah will be talking about why fitting in when you are made to stand out. I will be talking about how you can become a virtual event rockstar. So how to run webinars and get tons of clients through them. So we would really want to see you there. So thank you so much, Hannah. It was a pleasure to host you here, to have you here, for you. It was a pleasure to have you as my guest. Oh my God, I cannot talk today. Sorry. And, wishing you all the best and thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for listening.
And guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with other people. They may need to hear the empowering message that Hannah was sharing with us today. So yeah, share it with others and I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week and bye-bye. To get started on your confidence journey, I invite you to grab free 5-day email course, Confidence Rockstar. You will get 5 daily lessons sent directly to your mailbox, so you will have access to them anytime you like. You can grab this gift on the website alexgrzybek.com/5 days. All of the links to this episode you will find in the show notes below. And one more thing. I want to invite you to my personal website alexgrzybek.com, where you'll find other podcast episodes and more of the free resources to help you on your confidence journey. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next episode.